Today, we're diving into the Indian Constitution. But listen, this isn't going to be some dry, legalistic breakdown. We're going looking for something more, it's philosophy. We're trying to find the very soul that makes the whole machinery of the state actually work.
I mean, that's a huge question, right? How do you find a nation's soul? Well, for a lot of countries, the answer is right there in their constitution. See, it's not just a rule book, it's more like a mirror, reflecting a country's deepest ideals, its history, and all of its hopes for the future. You can think of any constitution as a blueprint. It lays out how the government's supposed to be built and what the relationship between the state and its people looks like. But for a country as massive and incredibly diverse as India, well, that blueprint had to be unbelievably detailed right from the get-go. And when I say detailed, I really mean it. When it was first adopted, the Indian Constitution had a whopping 395 articles. This was never just about making a bunch of rules. It was about building the entire framework for a brand new, independent, and democratic nation from the ground up. So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the Constitution as that grand blueprint. Then we'll find our master key to the whole thing, the Preamble. From there, we'll unpack the 5 big ideals that define the state, the 4 promises it makes to its people, and wrap it all up with the great balancing act that sits at the very heart of it all. You see, the philosophy of a constitution is basically the why behind all the what. And it's not some abstract academic idea. No, it's the set of real, guiding principles that shapes the government, defines citizen rights, and decides how power is shared. Okay, so if the Constitution is this big, complex machine, then the preamble, well, that's the master key. It's what unlocks the logic of the entire document. It might be a short introduction, but trust me, it packs in the essence of the whole thing. Now, even though you can't technically enforce the preamble in a court of law, you really can't overstate how important it is. The Supreme Court of India itself has called it the soul of the Constitution. It's the philosophical foundation that everything else is built on. And it all kicks off with these 3 incredibly powerful words. This isn't just some poetic flourish. It's a massive declaration. It establishes right from the start that all authority, all the power of the state, comes directly from the citizens of India themselves. So, building on that powerful idea, the preamble then lays out 5 core ideals. These are the things that really define the character of the Indian state. You could almost think of them as the nation's fundamental personality traits. First up, sovereign. Basically, this means India is its own boss. Internally, it gets to make its own laws without asking anyone. Externally, it isn't controlled by any other country. But, and this is so important, the Constitution makes it clear that this ultimate power, this sovereignty, really belongs to we the people. Second is socialist. Now, that word can mean a lot of different things to different people. The Indian model isn't a rigid Marxist one. It's much more flexible and democratic. It's all about reducing the gap between the rich and poor and creating a welfare state that looks out for its citizens. Third, we have secular. And again, this is a word that has a very unique, very Indian meaning. It means the state doesn't have an official religion. But it's not anti-religion, not at all. It's about giving equal respect and protection to all religions, and to every single person's freedom to believe what they choose. And this is where the Indian model really charts its own course, especially compared to Western secularism, which usually talks about a strict wall separating church and state. The Indian way has 2 sides. There's a negative part, the state won't favor one religion over another. But there's also a really crucial positive part, which allows the state to step in and support minority communities to make sure everyone is truly on an equal footing. Number 4 is democratic. This one is an absolute bedrock principle. In fact, the Supreme Court has said this is a basic feature of the Constitution that can never, ever be changed or taken away. It's the guarantee that power always lies with the people, who use that power by electing their leaders in free and fair elections. And finally, number 5, republic. This one's pretty straightforward. It just means that the head of the state, the president, is elected. They aren't born into the job like a king or queen. It just reinforces that core idea that all political power ultimately comes from the people. Okay, so after setting out the 5 traits that define the state, the preamble shifts gears a bit. It moves on to outline 4 fundamental promises, the big objectives the nation has to try and achieve for every single one of its citizens. The first promise is justice, and it's a big one. with 3 different parts. You've got social justice, which means equal treatment for everyone, no matter their background. Then there's economic justice, which is all about closing that gap between the rich and the poor. And finally, political justice, which guarantees that everyone gets an equal say through things like universal voting rights. The second promise is liberty, specifically the liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship. But, and this is a key point, this isn't about absolute, unchecked freedom. While these are protected as fundamental rights, the Constitution also allows for reasonable restrictions to be placed on them to make sure society functions in an orderly and safe way. Promise number 3 is equality. This is another really powerful and broad concept. It's not just about making sure everyone is equal in the eyes of the law. It goes way further, aiming to create real equality of status and, most importantly, equality of opportunity, giving all citizens a fair shot at success. And the fourth and final promise is fraternity. This is all about creating a sense of a common brotherhood, a feeling of unity that connects all citizens. The really beautiful thing here is how it works in 2 directions at once. It aims to protect the dignity of every single person, while at the same time preserving the unity and integrity of the whole nation. So when you pull all of these pieces together, the 5 ideals that shape the state and the 4 big promises made to its people, what you end up with is the core philosophy of the Indian Constitution. And at its heart, it's a great balancing act. And honestly, if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. The entire constitutional framework, this whole grand design, is built to do one crucial thing: to carefully, constantly balance the rights and freedoms of the individual with the greater good and social responsibilities of the community. It's there to protect you, but it's also asking you to be a part of building the nation. And that leaves us with one final, pretty important question to think about. This philosophy, these ideals, they were written down over 70 years ago. So as India keeps changing and growing at an incredible pace, the real challenge is this: how does a philosophy from another era continue to guide a complex, dynamic 21st century nation?